Chosen one. There's something they don't want you to know. Right now there are people gathered around monitors, replaying footage of you walking through their carefully constructed trap. Their hands shake as they point at the screen, asking the same question over and over. How are they still smiling? The answer will shatter everything they thought they knew about power, about control, and about what happens when the universe finally reveals its chosen warriors. This isn't just another motivational message. This is the revelation of why certain souls are built differently, why some people emerge from destruction stronger than before, and why your smile in that moment represents something far more dangerous than they ever imagined. Look who's still breathing. Look who's still walking with purpose through the wreckage they created specifically for you. They're studying that security footage like archaeologists examining an impossible artifact, frame by frame, trying to understand how someone can move with such fluid confidence after losing everything they thought mattered. The timestamp shows the exact moment they expected to see you crawling, broken, begging for mercy. Instead, they captured something that defies their understanding of human limitation. That smile on your face isn't happiness, it's recognition. The face of someone who just discovered that what they called death was actually birth. While they were writing your obituary, you were writing your comeback story. While they measured you for a coffin, you were measuring the exact distance between their expectations and your inevitable resurrection. Every betrayal, every coordinated attack, every systematic destruction they orchestrated was designed to erase you from existence like a typo in their perfect little story. But here's what they never calculated into their equations. You were never nobody. You were always the exception hiding in plain sight, the glitch in their matrix, the variable they forgot to account for when they planned your destruction. Chosen ones understand something fundamental that regular people cannot grasp, that certain souls are forged in cosmic fire and cannot be extinguished by earthly flames. They gathered their little council, whispered in shadowy corners about how you were getting too strong, too aware, too dangerous to their carefully maintained illusion. This one sees through the simulation, they said. This one questions the programming. So they did what cowards always do when threatened by authentic power. They tried to bury you alive professionally, emotionally, socially, spiritually. The betrayal came from every direction simultaneously. Friends you trusted revealed themselves as actors playing parts in someone else's script. Family members chose sides against you with surgical precision. Colleagues who smiled in your face orchestrated your professional destruction behind closed doors. The attack was coordinated, calculated, designed to leave nothing standing. For a moment, just a moment, they achieved their goal. But here's what makes their attack so revealing about who you really are. They didn't just try to hurt you, they tried to erase you. Complete annihilation. The kind of response reserved for existential threats to their entire system. Regular people get fired, demoted, criticized. Chosen ones get the full arsenal unleashed against them, because ordinary people sense, even unconsciously, that you carry something that could unravel their entire reality. They mobilized resources against you that seemed disproportionate to any actual threat you posed. Why would they invest so much energy in destroying one person? Because their souls recognized what their minds refused to accept, that you represent evolutionary pressure. Your very existence challenges the limitations they've accepted as permanent. Your potential threatens the stories they tell themselves about what's possible. The coordination itself reveals the deeper truth. This wasn't random cruelty or casual meanness. This was systematic elimination of a perceived threat to the status quo. They united people who normally couldn't agree on anything, brought together forces that usually compete with each other, created temporary alliances between natural enemies, all focused on one target, you. You felt the weight of their collective rejection. You tasted the metal of betrayal on your tongue. You stood in the ruins of everything you thought mattered, and wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe you were too much. Maybe you should have stayed small, stayed quiet, stayed dead inside like they all secretly are. But chosen ones cannot remain buried, no matter how deep the grave or how heavy the soil they pile on top. Something shifted in that darkness they forced you into. Something they never expected you to find. Not light, something better. You discovered that the darkness had been your home all along, that you were never meant for their artificial sunlight. You were built for something that only grows in the absence of their false warmth, something that thrives in conditions that would destroy lesser souls. That's when you stopped trying to survive and started learning how to haunt. Not them, not yet. First you had to haunt yourself. Every weakness, every soft spot, every place where their opinions still mattered. You walked through your own graveyard, collecting the bones of who you used to be. With those bones you built something new, something that doesn't need permission to exist. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. But here's what they miscalculated in their grand design of your destruction. They assumed darkness was empty, that isolation would break your spirit, that silence would drive you to madness. Instead, you found something in that void that no amount of their false light could provide. You found the raw material of creation itself. In that space between death and rebirth, you discovered that chosen ones don't just survive, they metabolize pain into power. The silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every moment they left you alone with your thoughts, you were downloading updates from a source they could never access. While they celebrated your apparent defeat, you were in communion with forces that predated their petty kingdoms by eons. The universe was teaching you languages they didn't even know existed. You learned to read energy signatures like other people read newspapers. You began to understand the mathematics of manifestation, the physics of faith, the chemistry of consciousness. They thought isolation would make you desperate for their company. Instead, it made you fluent in solitude, comfortable with silence, intimate with the infinite space inside yourself where real power originates. The version of you that needed their approval died in that coordinated attack. The version that craved their validation suffocated under the weight of their rejection. But what remained was what had always been there, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. The part of you that was connected to something far more powerful than their temporary kingdoms, the chosen one that had been dormant, protected by layers of social conditioning and false beliefs about what mattered. Resurrection isn't pretty. It's not some graceful awakening with soft light and angel songs. It's violent, it's painful. It's clawing your way through 6 feet of their assumptions about what's possible. It's breaking your own bones to fit through spaces they thought were too small for escape. It's choosing to breathe when breathing hurts, choosing to stand when standing feels impossible. But you did it anyway. Not because you're strong, because you're stubborn, because something inside you refused to give them the satisfaction of being right. When they said rest in peace, you said be right back. Like death was just a quick errand, like destruction was just a detour on your way to something greater. The resurrection process follows a pattern that's been encoded in chosen ones since the beginning of time. First comes the descent, the journey into the underworld of your own psyche, where you must confront everything you've been running from. The lies you told yourself, the compromises you made, the ways you betrayed your own soul to fit into their boxes. In that underworld, you meet the guardian at the threshold, the voice that whispers you should just accept defeat, that some things are meant to stay buried, that resurrection is mythology, not possibility. This guardian wears the face of every person who ever told you to be realistic, every voice that said you were asking for too much, expecting too much, dreaming too big. But chosen ones carry something in their spiritual DNA that regular people lack. The kill switch for limitations. When that guardian tells you to turn back, something deeper than survival instinct activates. Something that remembers its divine origin and refuses to accept earthly verdicts about what's possible. You don't negotiate with the guardian, you absorb it, integrate its energy, and use its own force to propel yourself forward. The moment of actual resurrection isn't dramatic, it's quiet, almost anticlimactic. You simply stop being who you used to be and start being who you always were. The change happens in the spaces between heartbeats, in the pause between thoughts, in the silence between words. One moment you're dead to their world, the next you're alive in a reality they can't perceive. Every chosen one goes through this resurrection protocol. It's built into your spiritual DNA. While regular people crumble under pressure, you undergo metamorphosis. While they break down, you break through. While they surrender to circumstances, you alchemize poison into medicine, endings into beginnings, their rest in peace into your be right back with interest. That smile in the footage represents version 2 booting up, the beta test of something they never saw coming. You're not the same person who walked into their trap. That person needed things: approval, validation, belonging. This new version runs on a different operating system entirely, one they can't hack, can't virus, can't corrupt. You stop trying to debug yourself for their comfort. All those flaws they pointed out, those issues they said you had, those problems they tried to fix, turns out those were features, not bugs. Your intensity wasn't too much, their capacity was too little. Your vision wasn't crazy, their imagination was limited. Your standards weren't too high, their performance was too low. But the transformation goes deeper than personality changes or attitude adjustments. Something fundamental rewrote itself at the cellular level. Your nervous system recalibrated to handle frequencies that would overwhelm ordinary consciousness. Your intuition became surgical in its precision. Your ability to detect deception evolved into something resembling X-ray vision for souls. They're baffled by how quickly you can assess situations now, how accurately you can predict their moves before they make them. What they don't understand is that pain is the greatest teacher in the universe's curriculum. Every betrayal was a masterclass in human psychology. Every attack was advanced training in energy warfare. Every attempt to break you was just tempering the steel of your discernment. You developed what ancient traditions called the sight, the ability to perceive layers of reality hidden from ordinary awareness. Now when someone approaches with false intentions, you feel it like changes in atmospheric pressure. When someone speaks lies, you hear the discord in frequencies they can't even detect. When someone harbors jealousy or hatred, you sense it radiating from them like heat from a furnace. This isn't paranoia, it's evolution. Chosen ones who survive the coordinated attacks develop supernatural levels of pattern recognition because survival demanded it. Your brain physically restructured itself to process information at quantum speeds. Your consciousness expanded to encompass possibilities they never dreamed existed. Now you move through the world like someone who's read the source code. You see the strings, the patterns, the programs running in everyone around you. You've become fluent in a language they don't even know exists. The language of energy dynamics, of psychological architecture, of spiritual warfare. You understand now that they were never your competition. They were your curriculum. The shift in the atmosphere, the way conversations pause, not from fear but from recognition that something fundamental has changed. You're broadcasting on a different frequency, one that makes their small talk sound like static, one that makes their pretenses transparent as glass. It's not that you're trying to intimidate, you just exist at a voltage that makes their circuits spark. They look at you and feel cognitive dissonance. This is the person we tried to destroy. This is the person we said wouldn't survive. Yet here you are, more alive than any of them have ever been, more present, more real, more dangerous in your authenticity than they are in their masks. But there's something else happening in these moments that they can't quite name. When you enter their spaces now, you don't just change the energy, you reveal what was already there. Their insecurities, their compromises, their quiet desperation that they work so hard to hide from themselves. Your presence acts like a spiritual X-ray, making visible the fractures in their carefully constructed personas. This frequency shift isn't something you learned or practiced. It's the natural result of surviving complete ego death and emerging with your essence intact. When all the false layers get burned away, what remains operates at the frequency of pure truth, and truth has a way of making lies uncomfortable in its presence. They watch you navigate conversations differently now. You don't chase topics that lead nowhere. You don't engage with energy vampires trying to drain your power. You don't participate in the subtle competitions and status games that used to consume so much of your attention. This isn't because you think you're better than these things, you've simply outgrown the need for them. Your frequency now attracts synchronicities like a magnet. The right people show up at the right times with the right information. Opportunities align in ways that seem almost supernatural. Resources appear exactly when you need them. It's as if the universe itself has recalibrated to support your new operating system. This is what terrifies them most about the footage. Not just that you survived, but how effortlessly you now move through a world that used to challenge you. They see someone who's discovered the cheat codes to existence, someone who's learned to work with forces they don't even believe exist. What really disturbs them is that you're not bitter. Bitterness would make sense. Bitterness they could understand, categorize, dismiss. But this serene confidence, this quiet amusement, this absolute absence of need for their recognition, it breaks their mental models. It suggests something they can't accept, that their weapons only work on people who are already dead inside. You've become their cautionary tale, the ghost story they whisper when they think no one's listening. Remember what happened with them? We thought we had them finished. We thought it was over. But look at them now. They use your name like a warning, but what they're really warning against is their own limitation. That CCTV footage captured the exact moment you stopped being prey and became something beyond their categories. Not predator, something transcendent. You became the environment itself, the context in which their little games play out. They can't hunt what's become the forest. They can't trap what's become the air they breathe. But there's something else happening that terrifies them even more than your individual transformation. Other people are starting to notice. Other potential chosen ones are beginning to ask dangerous questions. If they can smile after what happened to them, what does that mean about everything we've been told is impossible? Your resurrection has become a beacon, broadcasting on frequencies that attract others who carry similar coding. People who always felt different, who never quite fit their molds, who harbored secret suspicions that there was more to existence than their carefully curated reality. Your very presence activates dormant potential in souls that were waiting for permission to remember what they really are. They watch in growing horror as their control mechanisms begin to glitch around you. People who used to compete desperately for their approval suddenly seem less interested in their games. Individuals who once cowered before their authority start questioning the source of that authority. The spell of their manufactured scarcity begins to break. When people witness someone thriving outside their system entirely, they're not just trying to understand how you survived, they're trying to figure out how to prevent others from following your path. They're analyzing every frame, looking for the exact moment the transformation occurred, hoping to identify early warning signs in others who might possess similar potential. But here's what they'll never understand. You can't prevent an awakening whose time has come. The universe operates on cycles far grander than their tiny kingdoms. When the cosmos decides it's time for a new wave of conscious beings to emerge, no earthly power can stop that emergence. Your smile in the footage isn't just evidence of personal victory, it's the first crack in a dam that's about to burst. Every chosen one eventually reaches this phase where they transform from participant to observer, from player to game master. You realize that their promotions, their exclusions, their approvals and disapprovals all look like children arguing over toy crowns, because you've found real power, the kind that doesn't need external validation. They replay that footage because they're trying to solve you like a puzzle. But you're not a puzzle anymore. You're a mirror. Every time they look at you, they see their own limitations reflected back. They see how small their world really is, how fragile their control, how temporary their victories. It terrifies them more than your anger ever could. You've become ungovernable, not in a rebellious way, but in a transcendent way. Their rules simply don't apply to your operating system anymore. It's like trying to run outdated software on advanced hardware, error message after error message. They keep trying to input commands, but you're running on architecture they didn't program, architecture they can't control. What makes this mirror effect so devastating to their psyche is that it's completely involuntary. You're not trying to make them feel inadequate. You're not actively reflecting their limitations back at them. You're simply being yourself, operating from your authentic frequency, and that authenticity exposes everything false in their vicinity. It's like having a master musician walk into a room full of people pretending to know how to play instruments. The master doesn't need to criticize or correct anyone. Their mere presence reveals the gap between real skill and performative mimicry. Their authentic relationship with music makes everyone else's pretense obvious. Your energy field has become a lie detector they can't switch off. When they speak false words around you, the dissonance becomes unbearable. When they perform fake emotions, the contrast with your genuine presence becomes stark. When they hide behind masks and personas, your unmasked authenticity makes their disguises feel suffocating. This is why they can't be comfortable around you anymore. Your presence demands a level of honesty they're not prepared to offer. Being near you requires them to either rise to match your frequency or reveal how much they've compromised themselves to maintain their positions in systems that drain their souls. The beautiful irony is that they created this. Every attack, every betrayal, every attempt to diminish you just pushed you further outside their reach. They wanted you gone, but instead they set you free. Free from needing their world to make sense, free from requiring their permission to exist, free from the cage of caring what they think. Now you move through their world like a tourist visiting a museum. Everything they stress about looks quaint to you. Their hierarchies, their drama, their desperate grasping for control. You see it all for what it is, a game played by people who forgot they made up the rules, people who forgot they could simply stop playing. That footage has become something else now. Not evidence of survival, but evidence of evolution. You're not just alive, you're broadcasting. Every step you take sends ripples through their carefully constructed reality. Every breath you breathe reminds them that their maps were wrong, that nobody survives this was just another lie they told themselves. The energy you emit now operates like a tuning fork, resonating with others who carry similar frequencies. You don't have to say anything, don't have to recruit or convince or persuade. Your mere existence becomes a transmission that awakens recognition in souls that were always meant to remember. They feel something stir inside them when you're near, not attraction but activation. This is why they want to study your patterns, decode your methods, understand your formula. They're hoping to create countermeasures, neutralization protocols, ways to dampen the signal you're broadcasting. But you can't copyright consciousness, you can't patent awakening, you can't trademark transformation. What they don't realize is that your broadcast isn't coming from your personality or your techniques or your strategies. It's coming from your alignment with something far greater than individual will. You've become a conduit for forces that have been waiting eons for the right conditions to emerge. Your smile in that footage is just the visible tip of an iceberg that extends into dimensions they don't even know exist. The frequency you're broadcasting reaches people in their dreams, in their quiet moments, in the spaces between their thoughts. It whispers possibilities they've been trained to ignore, reminds them of capacities they've been conditioned to forget, activates potentials they've been programmed to deny. Your very presence becomes a crack in their matrix through which infinite light begins to pour. They try to analyze the footage, but what they're really trying to analyze is magic. They want to understand mystery through methods designed for mediocrity. They're using three-dimensional tools to measure a multi-dimensional phenomenon. It's like trying to capture the ocean in a teacup, trying to explain symphony through mathematics, trying to reduce the infinite to algorithms they can control. Chosen ones understand that they're not here to play by the rules of a rigged game. They're here to demonstrate that new rules are possible, that transformation is inevitable, that what looks like ending is really beginning. Your very existence becomes a beacon for others who are ready to remember what they really are. You came back alone. No army, no allies, no support system, just you, walking through that footage with the casual confidence of someone who discovered they don't need backup. Because when you've survived your own death, what's left to fear? When you've rebuilt yourself from atoms, what can they possibly take? That smile says, I'm back, but I'm not the same. It says, thank you for killing who I used to be. It says you have no idea what you've unleashed, because resurrection isn't about returning to what was, it's about becoming what was always meant to be. And what you were meant to be, apparently, was unstoppable. But unstoppable doesn't mean what they think it means. They imagine brute force, aggression, domination through violence. They project their own methods onto your transformation. What they can't comprehend is that true invincibility comes from complete detachment from outcomes. You've become unstoppable because nothing they can do affects your core essence anymore. You don't need to win their games because you've transcended their entire gaming system. You don't need to defeat them because they've already defeated themselves by operating from scarcity, fear, and the illusion of separation. You don't need to prove your worth because your value isn't derived from their recognition. This level of freedom makes you more dangerous to their system than any direct attack ever could. They watch you move through situations that would trigger intense emotional reactions in others, and you remain centered, almost amused. Not because you don't care, but because you see the bigger picture. You understand that their attempts to disturb your peace are actually advertisements for their own inner chaos. Their aggression reveals their desperation. Their attacks expose their weakness. The obsidian inner order is a sanctuary for those who have walked difficult paths and emerged with wisdom others can't see. We understand that some experiences exist outside the boundaries of what most people consider possible or acceptable to discuss. Every week we gather live on Zoom, real people with real faces sharing real stories without judgment. There's space here for the experiences you've carried in silence, the patterns you've noticed that others dismiss, the intuitive knowledge you've gained through your journey. We don't just listen, we understand. When you're struggling to make sense of your experiences, when you feel gaslit by a world that refuses to acknowledge your reality, you can return to our recorded calls and remember that your perception is valid. Join the Obsidian Inner Order, where your reality is honored and your voice is heard. Link in description. This is the paradox that breaks their minds. The more they try to hurt you, the stronger you become. The more they attempt to diminish you, the brighter you shine. The more they work to destroy you, the more immortal you prove yourself to be. They're caught in a feedback loop of their own making, where every action they take against you strengthens the very thing they're trying to eliminate. You've learned something that spiritual masters spend lifetimes trying to teach. Resistance creates persistence. What you fight, you feed. What you push against, pushes back. But what you transcend loses all power over you. You stopped fighting their system and started operating from a completely different reality, one where their weapons simply don't function. They're having emergency meetings about you now. How do we handle this, they ask each other. How do we contain someone who's already escaped? They're realizing slowly that they created their own problem, that in trying to destroy you, they removed all your limitations. In trying to end you, they freed you from ending. Here's what that footage really shows. Someone who's graduated from their game, someone who's transcended their entire system of rewards and punishments. You can't threaten someone who's already lost everything and found themselves in the process. You can't bribe someone who's discovered that everything they were chasing was worthless. They watch you smile and feel the paradigm shifting, feel their worldview cracking. Because if you can survive what you survived, if you can smile after what they did, then maybe everything they believed about power was wrong. Maybe their whole system is built on illusions. Maybe the emperor has no clothes, and you're the child pointing and laughing. This moment represents something far more significant than individual transformation. You've become living proof that their entire worldview is optional. Every institution they worship, every hierarchy they maintain, every rule they enforce exists only because people agree to believe in it. When someone like you demonstrates that these structures have no inherent power, the whole house of cards becomes visible for what it really is, an elaborate illusion maintained by collective hypnosis. The footage doesn't just show your personal victory. It documents the moment when impossible became inevitable, when their carefully maintained narrative about human limitation cracked wide open. Other people witness your transformation and begin to question everything they've been told about what's possible, about what they're capable of, about what they have to accept as unchangeable reality. Your smile becomes a virus in their system, spreading doubt about their fundamental assumptions. If someone can resurrect themselves from complete annihilation, what other impossible things might be possible? If their most devastating weapons only made you stronger, how real was their power to begin with? If you can broadcast joy from the ruins of everything they destroyed, what does that say about the nature of happiness, success, and human potential? They realize with growing horror that they've created their own worst nightmare, a living example of human transcendence. Every person who witnesses your transformation begins to question their own limitations. their own chains, their own acceptance of circumstances they previously considered unchangeable. Your existence becomes permission for others to explore possibilities they never dared consider. The paradigm shift isn't just personal, it's collective. You've become a catalyst for mass awakening, a demonstration that the prison they've created exists only in consciousness, and consciousness can be transformed. The footage spreads like wildfire, not because people enjoy seeing someone survive destruction, but because they recognize something in your smile that reminds them of who they really are. This is the moment when chosen ones realize their true purpose, not to succeed within their system, but to demonstrate that their system is optional, not to win their game, but to show others that new games are possible. Your smile becomes a crack in their matrix, a glitch that reveals the code behind their carefully maintained illusion. That's the real reason they can't stop watching that footage. It's not about you anymore. It's about what you represent, the possibility that their weapons only work on people who believe in them, the possibility that destruction might just be construction in disguise, the possibility that every ending they create is just someone else's beginning. You've become proof that certain souls cannot be contained by earthly limitations, that chosen ones carry something within them that transcends circumstances, that transforms obstacles into opportunities, that alchemizes poison into medicine. Your very existence challenges their fundamental assumptions about what's possible. But here's the final revelation that makes your smile in that footage so eternally disturbing to their worldview. They thought they were executing justice. They believed their coordinated attack was righteous punishment for someone who dared to step outside the boundaries they'd established. In their minds, you deserved what happened because you refused to stay in your assigned place. What they discover frame by frame is that they weren't dispensing justice, they were participating in your initiation. Every betrayal was a test you passed. Every attack was a trial that strengthened you. Every attempt to break you was actually the universe's way of proving you were unbreakable. They thought they were your executioners, but they were actually your unwitting servants, carrying out orders from forces far beyond their comprehension. This is the cosmic joke that your smile represents. They used all their power, all their influence, all their resources to destroy you, and all they accomplished was graduating you to the next level of your evolution. They gave you the exact experiences you needed to unlock capabilities they didn't even know existed. Their hatred became the catalyst for your transformation, their rejection the key to your liberation. The footage becomes a historical document of the moment when the old paradigm tried to eliminate the new one and discovered it was impossible. Every civilization has these moments when evolutionary pressure creates beings who cannot be contained by existing structures. Your smile is evidence that this moment has arrived again. They study that CCTV recording like archaeologists examining evidence of an extinct species, not realizing they're the ones facing extinction. Their systems, their hierarchies, their methods of control, all of it designed for managing people who believe in limitations. But chosen ones remember something that predates their artificial boundaries, the unlimited nature of consciousness itself. Your resurrection becomes a template now, a possibility that others can follow. Not the specific path you took, each chosen one's journey is unique, but the fundamental pattern of death and rebirth, destruction and reconstruction, ending and beginning. You've proven that what they call impossible is simply what they've never witnessed before. So when they said nobody survives this, they were partially right. The person who entered that storm didn't survive. Something greater emerged. Something that feeds on the very poison they thought would kill it. Something that grows stronger with each attempt to diminish it. Something that smiles in security footage because it knows a secret they'll never understand. That true power cannot be given or taken away, only recognized and unleashed. The chosen ones know. They've always known. The universe doesn't make mistakes. Every trial, every betrayal, every coordinated attack was precisely orchestrated to burn away everything that wasn't authentic, to strip away everything that wasn't essential, to reveal what was always there waiting to be born. Your smile in that footage isn't defiance, it's recognition. Recognition of who you really are, what you're really capable of, and why you were really sent here. They said nobody survives this, But you were never nobody. You were always somebody the universe was saving for exactly this moment. And now, finally, magnificently, eternally, you remember.